Hey, welcome back to the stash.
You know, it's funny. I had created a number of superheroes for Marvel, and I worked mainly with a wonderful artist named Jack Kirby. And one day, Jack and I were talking. We wanted to do another hero, and Jack said, "Well, what can we do now? We've got the Hulk, who's the strongest guy in the world, and we have Spider-Man, who climbs walls, blah, blah, blah. Who can we get that's even bigger and better and stronger?" And it occurred to me, the only thing we could do, perhaps, is come up with a god. I thought it would be fun to make a god a hero. So I'm not the world's greatest authority on gods, but I brushed up a little on the Roman gods, and I said, we've seen a lot of them. Looked into the Greek gods, well, everybody knows them. And then I stumbled on the Norse gods, and I realized they're not as well known. So I was reading about them, and then I came across and I think it's time that we talk about the mighty Thor.
Now there's one thing I've never talked about on this channel. It's something that I don't think many people actually know about. And that simple little thing is, I love Thor comics. When I was getting back into comics during high school, Journey into Mystery and the early issues of the Mighty Thor were two of the frequent titles I was getting into the collection. So naturally, I gave them a read. There was something about the covers, something so inviting. It was like looking into a portal that travels far into the realm of Asgard. And the best part was, all I had to do was turn the first page to be transported there. I read through and bought quite a lot of Thor comics, and even today, I still love going back to them, because they have this charm to each and every issue. It's a Silver Age type of charm, one any fan of that era would understand. The bright colors, the bold narration, the oversized text boxes that felt like they were yelling excitement straight into your eyes. Every issue of that era had this energy. Like the creators themselves couldn't believe they were getting away with making this kind of cool stuff. And that's especially true for Journey into Mystery. It's one of those books that wear its heart on its sleeve. You can feel the imagination radiating off every panel. So for today, I want to go back in time to the 60s and talk about why I love the Journey into Mystery and the early Mighty Thor comics. But hey, real quick, here at the Stash, we're swinging for 20,000 subscribers by the end of the month. Now that's a tall order, I know, but with great power comes great responsibility, and all you gotta do is click subscribe. So if you're into the Mighty Thor or just comic book deep dives, feel free to stick around. Also be sure to stay to the very end for another episode of Comics from the Stash. This time, I'll be going to my favourite Silver Age Thor covers from my very own comic collection. But, with that all said, let's get right back into the video. The thing about reading these old issues is that there's an unmistakable sense of fun behind them. You can literally feel it through the pages. There's an energy in every panel, a sense that Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were just having the time of their lives. Now, Journey into Mystery wasn't a calculated experiment or a Marvel bullpen decision to reinvent mythology. It was just like all the other Marvel titles at the time. It had two brilliant creators, throwing wild ideas at the page and seeing what could stick. And what came out of that was something magical. Be it Iron Man from Tales of Suspense, to Ant-Man from Tales to Astonish, or even Doctor Strange within Strange Tales. But the one that immediately grabbed my attention was Journey into Mystery. Because from issue 83 all the way through to issue 125, you get to see Thor evolve from a novelty hero into one of Marvel's most imaginative characters. Journey into Mystery issue 83 was where it all began. Before this issue, the series was just another monster/Twilight Zone-esque anthology book, like so many other titles Marvel had at the time before the heroic age properly kicked off. Journey into Mystery issue 83 though follows Dr. Donald Blake, a humble but lame man as they would put it. One day, he stumbles upon a cane that transforms him into Thor, the God of Thunder. And just like that, Marvel's universe expanded beyond the streets of New York and into the heavens above. It's wild how confident this issue feels for something so new. Stan and Jack were diving headfirst as they so often did into new territory, and just like all the other times, they managed to pull it off. Thor's introduction to the Marvel Age of Comics was loud, mythic, and unapologetically weird, and it worked. That first issue alone feels like a statement from the bullpen, a promise that Marvel's heroes didn't need to be limited to science experiments or accident victims, but rather, they could be gods. And so when you look back at that time, it's clear that Marvel was experimenting with everything. The Fantastic Four had opened the door, and now Lee and Kirby were walking right through it, into new worlds literally. And I think it's impressive how they took this larger-than-life figure, the mighty Thor, and give him real-life problems. Lee and Kirby made Thor feel like a myth brought to life, but also like a man struggling with problems we have all faced, be it acceptance, love, or family drama. And in a decade defined by imagination, that made him stand out. The next few issues keep that energy going. Joining the Mystery issue 84 brings in Jane Foster, Thor's first real human connection, and then issue 85 introduces Loki, Odin, and even Heimdall. The pieces of Asgard were slowly falling into place, and there was a real excitement I felt with each introduction. It left me wanting more, and thankfully, I got that with Tales of Asgard. But we'll get back to that a bit later. By issue 85, though, the tone changes. It's no longer just about aliens invading Earth or Thor saving humanity. It's about gods and brothers, betrayal and legacy, family and destiny. That's where the magic for me really started to spark, and that's something Kirby was the absolute master of. His pencils here were legendary, and it only gets better and better, but when he designed Asgard, I was in complete awe of the sheer amount of effort and detail he put in. Kirby made it this impossible fusion of technology and mythology. You'd see golden palaces sitting next to the rainbow bridges, and armor that looked futuristic and ancient at the same time. It's a style Kirby mastered that some called techno-myth. He didn't treat mythology as something old, he made it feel alive, and like it was constantly evolving in the same modern space as superheroes. I think that's a huge reason why I became such a massive fan of these comics. They had all the superhero excitement I loved from Spider-Man or Nightwing, but there was this grand mythic weight to them. Thor was, in a sense, above them. He was ancient, powerful, flawed, and noble all at once, and Kirby's art sold that perfectly. The wide panels, the cosmic backdrops, the explosive action, it felt like each page was a storm made of ink. Even when the stories were silly by modern standards, there was heart behind them, and moments that would genuinely give me goosebumps with how pure they were. Every swing of his enchanted hammer, every argument with Odin, every mischievous plot by Loki, it all felt alive. By blending mythology with soap opera drama, and Lee and Kirby made Asgard feel personal while also grand, and that was a massive plus for me. Odin felt like a strict father, Loki was evil but also jealous, and Thor was far beyond that of just a noble god. He was also a man torn between two lives. Those dynamics gave the book a layer of humanity that no other myth-based comic had at the time. It was fantasy, but most importantly, it was relatable fantasy. From issues 90 to 105, the series really finds its footing. This is where you start seeing that signature Kirby energy that will later define Marvel's cosmic side. By issue 97, the Tales of Asgard backup stories began. These short mythic segments that were like miniature epics within each issue. They were there to build the world, and I think it more than succeeded in that. Especially later on, it kept the main story a little shorter, but all that meant was the comic was more direct and punchier, with a backup that would sometimes slow things down to give you a sense of Thor before Donald Blake. You get stories about young Thor, about the origins of Asgard, about the gods and monsters that filled its history, and these stories are so much fun to read because you can feel Kirby and Lee letting loose. It's like Jack Kirby has been waiting his whole life to draw a world like this. Giant fire demons, frozen giants, gods clashing over the fate of realms. It's pure visual storytelling, and Stan Lee's narration complements it perfectly. It's grand, poetic, dramatic, literally everything it needs to be. Reading these pages out loud feels like reciting from some ancient scroll, except with way more explosions, and that's the charm of these issues. Sure, the stories are great, but the way they are told makes them even better. There's this childlike sincerity in everything. When Thor swings his hammer, the captions scream with excitement. When Odin appears, it's an event. Every panel feels like it's announcing itself to the reader. It's very much theatrical storytelling, and I personally wouldn't have it any other way for a Silver Age comic. It's exactly why it works. That's something the entire era nailed. That unfiltered imagination of the Silver Age as a whole is a load of fun. There were no rules, no this has to be grounded. It was about making you believe in the impossible, and Tales of Asgard was Kirby and Lee's way of saying, let's make mythology feel cool again, and through it all, they did. Reading through these issues, you start to notice how much fun Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were having mixing genres. In one issue, Thor is fighting aliens. In the next, he's battling frost giants or arguing with Odin about the woman he loves. Sometimes it's sci-fi, sometimes it's fantasy, and sometimes it's both at once. Journey in the Mystery became a playground for experimentation, and it's honestly impressive how cohesive it all still feels. Even when you jump from monsters to myth to romance, there's a consistency that keeps it grounded. The consistency is Kirby's art and Stan Lee's voice for Thor. Those two elements carry everything. And when you think about it, this era of Thor is really the bridge between two worlds. The grounded realism of Marvel's early heroes and the cosmic weirdness that would define the company later. I like to believe that this series helped, even if only a little bit, to pave the way for things like Galactus, the Silver Surfer, even the Eternals and the New Gods. You can see the seeds of all of those ideas right here. Asgard is basically Kirby's first draft of the Fourth World. The bold architecture, the gods debating morality, the themes of destiny and power, it's all here years before he'd take those ideas to DC. And that's the part of what makes reading these issues so special today. It feels like you're watching creativity evolve in real time. You can see Kirby testing visual ideas he'll later perfect, and you can see Stan refining his dialogue style, balancing Shakespearean grandeur with down-to-earth humor. It's like watching two artists learning, failing, succeeding, and innovating together right on the page. Now, by the time we get to issues 110 through to 125, the comic starts shifting gears again. The stories get bigger, more serialized, recurring villains like Loki, the Absorbing Man, and the Destroyer start showing up. These stories have scale. You can tell Lee and Kirby were pushing themselves even more. There's pages filled with huge action scenes, dialogue trying its hardest to make a Thunder God feel genuinely human, and full-page splashes that look like paintings. Even now, they jump off the page. And the crazy part is, this was being drawn monthly. They were producing this much creativity on a deadline. That's what blows my mind about this era. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were working on so many titles. I'm talking heaps, and yet, through it all, managed to not only deliver each month, but do so in a style that can only be described as the mighty Marvel way. What adds to these issues' greatness, though, has got to be the rhythm and the pacing of it all. You get these bursts of godly action, followed by quiet moments between Blake and Jean or Thor and Odin. That balance keeps everything feeling real and like the other Marvel titles that define the company. No matter how far into the myth the stories went, they always found a way back to the emotion. And so by the time this series transitions to the mighty Thor with issue 126, it feels earned. It's like Thor has graduated. The title Journey in the Mystery no longer fits. He's no longer on the journey, for he's become the destination. Something I've always admired about this era is how optimistic it feels. Even when Thor faces impossible odds or cosmic level threats, there's this underlying belief that he'll always find a way. And I feel that within that determination is a great honor within Thor. I believe that Thor's honor matters because it shows that the gods themselves can be noble. It's an idealism that defined early Marvel, and it's what makes these old Thor comics so timeless. Like I said before, you can feel Lee and Kirby's excitement in every page, but in this context, it's through the way they wrote with awe. Every issue is like them saying, wouldn't it be amazing if this existed? And that's exactly the kind of wonder I think comics should inspire. Thor, in this run, embodies that idea better than anyone else. He's a believer. He believes in justice, in honor, and in family. He's powerful but not cruel, but most of all, he's what superheroes are supposed to represent. Ideals. And when I read those stories, I can feel that energy again. That childlike sense of believing that heroes can make the world better. Even visually, Kirby reinforces that optimism. The way he draws the radiating lightning, the way he draws this glowing and alive Asgard. There's warmth to his art that you rarely see in modern comics. What makes this era so fun is that it feels alive. There's no pretension, no overthinking, just creativity firing on all cylinders. Lee and Kirby were inventing the roadmap to follow with each passing issue. They took an old myth, mixed it with superhero energy, and somehow created something that still feels fresh more than 60 years later. I know that when a lot of new readers see these issues, all they see is old, outdated comics. I get it, it's not for everyone. But when I read and collect these issues, I see the foundation of everything Marvel became, but also the foundation of my love for comics. As a kid, I was surrounded by comics, especially the Silver Age ones. From Spider-Man to the Silver Surfer to Captain Marvel and so much more. So now whenever I go back to those classics, there's a genuine soft spot in my heart that just simply pulls me right in. And when it comes to Thor in particular, there's an unmatched sense of grandness to it. You can trace a line from these pages to the cosmic sagas, to the MCU, to every ambitious story that followed. Because this is where imagination met structure. This is where comics stopped being small and started feeling infinite. These classic comics, they're fun, they're weird, they're bold, and they're filled with passion. You can tell Kirby poured everything into his art, and Lee filled every speech bubble and narration box with sheer excitement. Every story felt like a spark of creativity, a moment where two people were pushing each other to dream bigger. And as a fan, as someone who talks about these stories for a living, that energy means everything to me. So when I say I love Thor comics, I mean it. These issues, specifically Journey into Mystery 83 through to 125, are a reminder to me of what makes comics special. They're proof that imagination has no limits, and they capture an era where every page felt like it was written by the gods themselves. If you ever want to feel the same spark I did, then I'd highly encourage you to go back and give them a chance. Turn the page and let yourself be transported to Asgard. Because, trust me, once you start, you won't want to leave. Hear ye to another episode of Comics from the Stash. I am the son of Odin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Comics from the Stash. Today we're going over some of my journey into mystery comics, with my favorite covers from the collection. I did say Thor comics in general, but I thought since this video is mostly just about Journey into Mystery, might as well keep it condensed to that. But so, without wasting any time, let's get into the first one. So we have Journey into Mystery, issue 118, the first appearance of the Destroyer. Now for this cover, I really like the way that Thor is just sort of embodied over Don Blake here. It is issue 113. Now this one is a classic. We don't get many covers like this where it's just Hulk and Thor, but this one is one of the best ones, I think. Issue 112. Now for this issue, I love the Rainbow Bridge. It is issue 111. This one's pretty cool for multiple reasons. You got Loki, got Jane Foster in the background, an epic battle, but also a little cameo appearance by Doctor Strange. It is issue 108. Now this one is a pretty big key, especially for Thor comics. It is issue 103, the first appearance of the Enchantress and the Executioner. This one is a favorite of mine, but also for my dad as well. We spent ages trying to track this one down, and we finally got it sometime like a few years ago. It is Journey into Mystery, issue 95. Now, I love the way the colors pop in this cover. It is Journey into Mystery, issue 93, the first appearance of Radioactive Man. I've always loved the way Loki looks, and even just the green outline around his speech bubble, for some reason, just always caught my eye. This one is Journey into Mystery, issue 92. This cover here is iconic. It's probably my favorite out of the bunch. It is Journey into Mystery, issue 89. I I've always tried to recreate that pose with action figures, but the hair always gets in the way. It's so annoying. Then for the last issue on the list, I really love the way Thor looks here. It is Journey into Mystery issue 86. But that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because here, any support means so much, and plus, you know, Thor might get you. And yeah, thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.